About us, not him.
Let's bring on Isaac Schade from Locked On College Basketball, Locked On Tar Heels, as we talk some UNC hoops, some ACC hoops with Isaac. I'm sorry for that introduction, Isaac.
Let's let the music wash over us, fellas. I'm here for it. I'll wait forever.
All right. Let's jump in with some portal talk, shall we? Day one in the books. A lot of names in there, obviously. Did anything surprise you from day one of the portal being opened?
The biggest one was Flory Badunga from Kansas. I just thought with Bill Self already announcing his intention to stay in Lawrence for at least one more year, we'd see a lot of the Jayhawks roster stick around, and they had a much better year than they had those previous 2 years with Hunter Dickinson in the post. But now you see multiple Jayhawks start to enter the portal, not just Flory, but Bryson Tiller and a few others. And a lot of the early noise is Badunga to Texas Tech to replace JT Toppin. And so all of that is kind of shocking to me. And then today on Wednesday, the most interesting one was we've seen a couple big-time guards like PJ Haggerty enter the portal. But Duke, Nick Homenia is entering the portal, a 6'8" wing, really came on late in the season as both Patrick Gongba and Caleb Foster were out injured for a bit. And so I think he's going to have a whole host of suitors lined up. And Duke has just not lost many people in the portal. This is now their second portaler in this cycle so far. So that's interesting to me as well.
I do want to get your thoughts on Syracuse here in a minute, but let's talk about the team that you cover most closely, and that's North Carolina, and they're going through a coaching change themselves and just announced that Mike Malone has gotten the job there in Chapel Hill. How surprised were you? Because from the outside looking in, it seemed to us where it kind of came out of left field. Did you have any indication that he was even in the mix? How surprised were you with the decision?
It's kind of in between what you just said there. And I say that because he was somebody whose name I talked about multiple times speculatively in the 2 weeks between when Hubert Davis was fired and before they announced him, but only because, and this story is well known now, but his daughter is a sophomore volleyball player at North Carolina. Because of that, and because he wasn't coaching this past year, in the fall, he was around the team some. Coach Davis invited him to come be down at practice a couple times. North Carolina had them on one of their official podcasts. The hosts did. And so from hearing him talk in those moments, I remember thinking, I was driving down the road listening to that interview, and I thought, if Hubert Davis is, ever gone, Michael Malone would make a nice replacement for him. So in that regard, yes, he was a name I had talked about, but there was no official chatter from Carolina or from more officially sourced information that he was in the mix. It was all about Tommy Lloyd and Dusty May and Billy Donovan. So it wasn't a surprise that his name came up, but it was a surprise that he was the guy because they did a great job of keeping that under wraps. I think some of that might be because I believe we're going to see 8 to 10-ish NBA head jobs open up this cycle, and there were multiple of them that were already expressing interest in Coach Malone being their head coach. And so I'm wondering if part of the cloak and dagger of it all was to keep the NBA bloodhounds off the scent.
Interesting. Any concern down there in Chapel Hill that the portal just opened? He just got hired. There's a lot of uncertainty with GM and staff and so on and so forth. Any concern that North Carolina may be falling behind a little bit on this cycle, given that the portal's already open?
That's a great question. Yes, there's absolutely concern. 7 Tar Heels are already in the portal, multiple of which have expressed the possibility of coming back. They just wanted to keep their options open. Obviously, Caleb Wilson is off to the NBA. Seth Trimble is out of eligibility. But there are still some big names that are in the mix, including Henry Vasar, who hasn't declared his intentions yet. Neither has Jaron Stevenson. I'm sure we'll talk about Mr. Dylan Mingo at some point in this conversation, but he, at this point, is still committed to North Carolina, as is incoming high-level freshman Maximo Adams. And so for the North Carolina side of it, in terms of the portal, the good news is that existing GM Jim Tanner at least at this point, is still in the mix. There's been no indication of who the new GM will be or if there will be a new GM. There's a possibility, of course, that Coach Malone could stick with Jim Tanner as his GM. We wait to see on that, as well as the assistant coaches. But I say that to say he and Buzz Peterson and others have been working on portal names. I'm sure they've been having conversations behind the scenes. So there is concern, but it's not the same level of concern as, say, when Bill Belichick was named the head coach well after the portal opened, didn't have a staff or anyone in place. So it's not that same scenario. And the good news is, with basketball, you really just need a couple guys to hit in the portal. And so if he can go find his guys, that'll be great. But is there concern? Absolutely. And it would be foolish not to have some level of it.
We're going to talk about the Mingo brothers here in 1 second, but you brought up staff. Do you have any feel for what the staff will look like, or even the profile of coach? Is is Michael Malone targeting college guys, or do you think that he's going to bring some guys that he's worked with from the NBA, mixture of both? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. As a reminder for everyone, a couple years ago, we jumped from 3 to 5 assistants at the collegiate level, and so that's a possibility. We already know that one of Carolina's assistants is out. That's Marcus Page, who went to be on staff with Wes Miller at UNC Charlotte. There is speculation that 1, maybe 2 of the existing assistant coaches will be on staff with Coach Malone. That is Pat Sullivan, who they are familiar with each other because of where they grew up, as well as Sean May, who was an interesting part of the search process with it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one or both of them retained on the staff. The name that has been thrown around as like the lead assistant is Chuck Martin, who has been with Coach Calipari at Arkansas the last 2 years and was with him in his final year at Kentucky as well. And so those are kind of the 3 kind of buzziest names right now. I think the most important thing for Coach Malone is that, for me, there is no concern with the X's and O's of it all. He is a phenomenal on-court basketball coach. What he needs help with and what he needs to bring around him is the guys that know the collegiate landscape, the ebbs and flows of a college basketball season and what that all looks like. And so in that regard, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have multiple of these college guys we just talked about. But yeah, NBA names would make sense as well. And so we'll wait to see. There has been no firm confirmation on anyone, at least as we talk here in the lunch hour on Wednesday afternoon.
All right, you brought up Dylan Mingo and his brother. Let's go there next. Where do things stand? There's been a lot of speculation that he may decommit and open up his recruitment. And as you well know, Jamal Brunt from Penn State, the associate head coach there, has just joined the Syracuse staff. So SU fans are excited that maybe they've got a shot at one or both of the Mingo brothers. What is the latest down there? I guess let's start with Dylan, and then if you know anything about Kayden, please pass that along as well.
With Dylan, it's funny because on, I believe it was Monday, as some of the other Carolina transfer portal news was coming out, there were rumors that Dylan was decommitting. It's funny because the first where I was able to trace it back to was a fake Barstool Syracuse account that had quoted Pete Nakos, who's an On3 guy, as the source of this information, but they used an ESPN graphic with it. And so it was like, I think we're missing it all here. And so a lot of people found that, started running with it. NC State fans found their way to that and started running with it. So as of the present moment, there is no news yet on Dylan Mingo's either reaffirming his commitment to North Carolina or decommitting or asking out of his, commitment to North Carolina. So that's in wait and see mode right now. And that always makes sense to me, whether it's existing players or players who are committed to come as freshmen. My understanding is that 2 of Coach Malone's first contacts were to both Dylan Mingo and Maximo Adams, the 2 highest level recruits that Carolina has coming in. As for Kayden, we know that he entered the transfer portal on Wednesday, and Kayden is Dylan Mingo's older brother. For those who are unaware, he was Penn State's second leading scorer this year. He was the leader in the entire Big Ten in steals per game, has 3 years of eligibility left. And so obviously there's going to be sweeping speculation about, do these guys want to play together? Would they rather play separate? I've seen both things happen in college basketball, where you've got brothers that want to be on the same team, where you got brothers that are like, these guys are both guards, right? Like, could we coexist in a backcourt or not? So there's all of that to keep in mind. There is the tie that you already mentioned there to Syracuse. And so I think it would be foolish to not think of Syracuse as a landing spot for at least Kayden, if not both of them. I have speculated from all the way back to when Dylan committed to Carolina, like, will Kayden ultimately enter the transfer portal? Because it would make sense to do so. But as of this point, there's no early intel on any leaning with Kayden.
All right, interesting. I do want to get your thoughts on Syracuse, and as you well know, they're undergoing a coaching change here as well, just a few weeks ahead of what North Carolina dealt with. Yeah. What do you think of the Gerry McNamara hiring?
Love it. I'm all in on it. Obviously, he doesn't have a long track record of being a head coach, but there were the years on the bench with Syracuse. There's the 2 years now at Siena. I know the first year wasn't great, but you got to get things turned around. And then what a year for GMAC at Siena this year. I think I tweeted at halftime of the Siena Duke game in the NCAA tournament, like, hire GMAC yesterday, Syracuse. Like, this is a no-brainer. I know there were other names talked about, but at that point, and with the post-game endorsement from John Shire, where he says, look, I think he literally called him GMAC, and he said, GMAC outcoached me in that game, which I'm sure you guys have talked about at length and ad nauseum. But this, like, that showing from Siena just made this hiring all the more plausible. And so I'm sure that was a massive win for the athletics department, who's like, oh, good. We already wanted to hire Gerry, and now there's even more legitimacy to it because they nearly became the third ever 16 team to beat a 1 seed. You look, and there's been some successes and some failures with bringing in alums, right? Obviously, Gerry is so well loved by Syracuse. It's fun. I didn't go to Syracuse. I went to a small NAIA school, but my 4 college years directly lined up with Gerry's. And so I was a huge McNamara fan. Loved that championship. Of course, I think it kind of helped bring Roy Williams back to North Carolina. So thank you all for that. You think of places it's not worked with alums, like Pat Ewing at Georgetown. It's not working down in Memphis with Penny. It didn't work at Carolina and Syracuse, and that's why both schools have hired new coaches. But with the success, both at the experience at Syracuse on staff, the success this year at Siena, I think that has set up Gerry to be ready to go. I would imagine his former head coach is going to be able to help provide some wisdom and insight for how to handle things at Syracuse, how to handle certain boosters and different ways of doing things and smart things and dumb things. And obviously, Gerry's got to blaze his own trail. He's got to be his own man. But this feels set up for success, and I ultimately love the hire.
Yeah, it does feel like it's set up for success. And another thing you didn't touch on there is the money. It seems like the resources are there for the first time in a little bit, however many years, 3, 4, 5 years. And so I think that it feels like, to your point, it does feel like it's set up for success.
And what a cool thing to get to coach your teammate's son, man. Like, how cool is that?
Oh, yeah. No, it's that's another thing we've been talking about quite a bit here on our show. Paulie, do you want to chime in?
No, I don't want to get in on that at all.
There's been a lot of talk around here. Just full disclosure, Isaac, been a lot of talk around here about whether or not Melo is a good thing or a bad thing sitting court's-side.
I can see that.
I can't.
Do you think he can do whatever he wants?
Does Gerry have the voice to have a tough conversation with Melo about that?
He doesn't need to.
Yeah, I think he does, but I don't think it's an issue.
Okay.
I mean, Cayenne has been dealing with Melo sitting courtside for his entire life, and I think fans are just trying to read into something that's, make something out of nothing.
I got you.
But yes, I think Melo and Gerry have a very good relationship, and I'm sure Melo went to bat for him to get the job. Sure. And so, yes, I'm sure that they can have that conversation if they need to. I do want to get your thoughts on Donnie Freeman, who did announce yesterday that he's hitting the portal. Yeah. I don't think we're shocked here here.
No.
He's probably going to command more in the open market than they would be willing to pay him here. Any thoughts on where he lands, whether it's in the ACC or elsewhere?
You're right. Not shocking at all, but I was bummed. Like it took a while to get him back and into the mix of things this year. And so I was so elated when he eventually did. How many played 23 games this year? Yeah.
He missed 28 games over 2 years.
Yeah, because he didn't play many his freshman year either.
Yeah, he missed the whole second half of the year as a freshman.
That's right. And so, I would have just liked to have seen a full season at Syracuse of a healthy Donnie Freeman. I think that's the biggest bummer in that for me, because in a day and age where there is so much movement, to get these guys who can stick around and really make a name for themselves at one school, I just love it when that's able to happen. So in that regard, I'm bummed. But as you said, I think Donnie's going to go get a bag somewhere. Hopefully for Syracuse's sake, it's not in the ACC. You hate to have to face a former player, especially one who's as good as Donnie Freeman is. But I think the key now for Gerry is to go find that player. I know Donnie's a little bit undersized D at 6'9", 205, which is crazy for me to say as a 5'11" kid. Can you go get? You see these best teams in the nation right now, the national champion Michigan Wolverines. They had Marez Johnson starting at the 3, and he'd be a lot of teams' 5 in this day and age, right? And so it's like you see so many teams just working on getting massive. And so that's another reason why I hate to see Donnie out. But can Coach McNamara, which is so still weird for me to call him that, but it's true, can he go out and get a front court that can just dominate? When I think of the best Syracuse teams under Coach Boeheim, with just the length and athleticism, the rangy wings and all of that. And you just wonder what Coach McNamara is going to want to bring in to just restore Syracuse to where it needs to be. Because this is one of those, like I heard you guys talking about Louisville's roster turnover earlier, and college basketball is better when Louisville is better. And so it's been so good to have them back at the top of the sport the last 2 years under Pat Kelsey. That's what I want to see from Syracuse. We need Syracuse to be great. For us who love the ACC, for us who love college basketball, like, let's get this back to it. And I think that's going to make it critical to go get some great front court pieces to fill out this roster.
You know what, Isaac? For Paulie and I's sanity, we need Syracuse to be good again, if we're being honest. Not going to lie. Last one for you. I'm sure you saw the Yahoo report today about the eligibility change that the NCAA is trying to institute, the 5 for 5. The clock starts when you graduate high school or when you turn 19 years old, whichever one comes first, and then you get 5 years to complete 5 years of eligibility. What do you make of it? Do you think it's a step in the right direction? Do you like it? What's your take?
I think any baby step is a step in the right direction, because I have long, all the issues that we see are not the player. Like, it's not the player's fault that they're going to go try to get as much money as they can. It's not coaches' faults for trying to get guys to help them win. I have continually laid all of the issues we have right now at the feet of the NCAA, because they had opportunities to get out ahead of all of this, to put better regulation around NIL, to put better regulation around the transfer portal. But they just clung unnecessarily to their ideas of amateurism, and now look where we are. So all of this to me is the NCAA's fault. So anything trying to find a modicum of sensibility, whether it's length of eligibility, whether it's transfer portal movement. I know President Trump had his executive order the other day. Well, guess what? That's not going to carry a ton of weight. But if the things they're in start to bring things like this 5 and 5 to places that can actually enact it, can the NCAA start doing sensible things like that? I would love to see it. I honestly haven't put that much thought yet into if I love the 5 and 5, but I just love that there is something, right? Like, I'm a huge baseball guy, and something I love is MLB has put so many regulations in place over the past 5-6 years that have made it a better product that more people want to see, whether it's ABS or the pitch clock or 3-batter minimum, all of that. And so I just need to see college basketball taking some steps. And as we try to regulate everything that's going on with 37-year-old international dudes coming over or whatever it is, trying to get Charles Bediako eligible and things like that. We just need some sensible things. And if this can start that conversation, I'm all for it.
All right. Great stuff, Isaac. We appreciate the insight. We appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much for your time. And hopefully we can do it again. We enjoyed this.
Always down. Love it, fellas. Have a great afternoon.
All right. You as well. Isaac Schade, Locked On College Basketball, Locked On Tar Heels.